The grating hum of generators. Dusty streets, thick with the smell of exhaust fumes. This is Daki Biyu in Nigeria's capital city. Like many other neighborhoods across the country, power supply is a problem here. Electricity, energy that moves like water flowing through pipes. The electricity flowing through these cables brings lights, powers phones, and sustains livelihoods.
Gaskiya muna fama da rashin wuta sosai ma a nan gaskiya.
Amma kuna da wuta a
yanzu. A'a mu dai ba ma da wuta gaskiya. To bari hina da.
But for Aisha, a 25-year-old beautician, energy poverty is real.
Gaskiya tsadar rayuwa kan dai to abin ba za a yi magana ba gaskiya yayi wasu da yawa ma saboda yanayin abubuwa mutane kowa zai shigo ya zo siyan abu dai muna dai sai da abubuwa su ce irin mun masu tsada wani ma zai taho daga wuri da nisa ya zo ya ce mun masu tsada ba su jin daɗi dai gaskiya a ransu kuma haka mu ma kanmu ba dan ran muna so ba gaskiya kuɗin mai kan muna kashewa kan ba ma cewa ba ma kashewa dan jiya ma kan mun tada janareto tun daga karfe 6 har karfe 10 muna amfani da shi ya ja mana mai sosai fiye da yadda ba a tunani gaskiya kuma sanadin dai gaskiya kana tunanin cewa akwai wuta a unguwa zaka samu to kin san yanayin rayuwa yanda yake tafiya da yawa ma mutane wallahi wasu sukan zauna a waje saboda zafi ko yau dinnan ma mun samu waɗanda suka zauna a waje saboda zafi yayi yawa ni kaina na yi aiki a waje yau saboda zafi rashin wutar nan gaskiya yana takura mana to wannan dai rashin akwai mai a ciki bai da kawowa ba yan estate dinnan su kadai da yake da wuta dai gaskiya nan da area da yake
so wani irin wuta kuke amfani da shi a cikin shago wani wuta kike amfani
wutan generator ne muke amfani da shi
daga safe
in babu za mu yi amfani da sola haka
ko kina da sola ma
ina da sola a
to wannan ma na mutanen irin manyan mutane manyan
gidaje kawai dai manya dai kadai su kadai ke amfani da shi gaskiya dan ba mu taba ganin wanda irin suka ba mawa ba
Aisha is one of the estimated 40% of Nigerians without access to electricity, with recent estimates showing over 85 million people, especially in the rural areas, living without grid-connected power supply. 80% of people who live without electricity live in Africa. The use of electricity and GDP growth are closely linked. That's why energy poverty in Africa slows down development. Wealthy nations consume huge amounts of power. It is fundamentally linked to all indices for a quality life. Without power, healthcare, education, and innovation suffer setbacks.
The major gaps around the health system strengthening, one key areas apart from capacity buildings and the human resources is also around the infrastructure development, and power tends to be at the center. And I will try and give you 2 examples that can look very simple but encourage people to visit the primary healthcare facilities. There was a time I was working in one of the northern states in Nigeria where initially there was no renewable energy, and then there was no standard electricity in that place. So but a partner came in and installed a solar system for those primary healthcare facility. And I can tell you, based on the conversations we had with one of the healthcare workers, they usually come to work around 8, 9, at the local government. But because of that solar that was installed in their facility, they come to work around 7. And I asked them why. And one of the reasons that shocked me and made me smile was they usually come early so that they can charge their phone. As simple as that. So that means charging their phone made them to come to work more early because of this solar, and also try to support people's intervention. So as little as that, if you go to the facilities now and check the baseline assessment before this installation of solar, how many patients do they treat, or how many patients visit that facility and get complete service? And then with the installation of the solar, if you check, you see a significant margin difference because of the punctuality.
Nigeria's National Electric Power Authority, NEPA, was established in 1972, tasked with generating, transmitting, and distributing electricity across the country. NEPA took charge of powering a nation eager to rebuild after the Civil War. However, with systemic failures and poor maintenance culture, NEPA became known for operational inefficiencies and constant blackouts. NEPA struggled to maintain power lines in remote and inaccessible areas. By 2005, the Obasanjo government restructured it into the Power Holding Company of Nigeria. Despite reforms in Nigeria's power sector, electricity consumption in the Federal Capital Territory remains low.
My name is Mohammed Jibril Duku, and I am an engineer by profession, and I work in the power sector, which allows me to see electricity not just technically, but as it affects the day-to-day of every Nigerian, from homes to businesses and beyond. So I'll give you an example. Nigeria produces electricity in 2 major ways. We have the dominant gas-powered plants that uses natural gas, and we also have hydro powered dams that uses hydro turbines to generate electricity. Each one has its principles, but the basic thing there is that there has to be some form of movement to create electricity. We have generating companies in Nigeria that are responsible for generating electricity. Once upon a time, we had NEPA. You can remember the up NEPA when the electricity is back, or common NEPA when it's off. But right now, generating companies are responsible for generating electricity. And the 2 major ways, like I said, is hydro and natural gas. For natural gas, just imagine a generator, but a huge generator that uses natural gas. It is burnt in a way that it produces heat. That heat creates some form of pressure, and that pressure then moves the big machines into creating electricity, and that's the movement I'm talking about. For hydro, if anyone has been to the Shiroro Dam, the Kainji Dam, we have the Dadinkowa, and all the small dams that we have, it's just about trapping water in a way by creating like a barrier in a river to create a dam, so that you store the water until it reaches a level that when you release it, it would create some form of pressure. The journey from generating to transmitting to distributing is actually encompassing a lot of processes, but also having a lot of stakeholders. These cores are also private entities now. You would see AEDC managing Abuja and nearby states. You will see JED managing the Jos, Plateau and Bauchi and Gombe, Yola Disco for other areas. These are now private companies that take up the light, electricity in a technical term, and then sell it to the users. We also have metering at our homes, and people wonder, why do you even need meters? The electricity is here, why can't we use it? or if it's a business for them, then there has to be a way for you to measure how much you have consumed and how much you're paying for it. We have the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission that regulates the tariff, how much is being charged. They regulate how much the supply is. They regulate who is not doing his duty appropriately and put up sanctions. They monitor the entire value chain of electricity from the generation to transmission and then distribution. If we are relying on, for example, hydropower, there are times when it's the season where it's rainy and you have a lot of water in abundance and you can trap it, release it, trap it, release it. What will happen then if we're in a dry season where the water levels are low? It means that we're having to rely on other sources, and that's where the gas plants come into play. And that's why you rarely see a country that rely on one source of electricity, because each and every one has its own demerits. But we also have problems with the gas power plants because they rely on fuel. And there are sabotage of cases sometimes where pipelines are being vandalized, and this hinders the supply of natural gas to the stations. These are not things you take on a trailer or in drums. It has to be piped such that there is a regular supply. Lack of generation means lack of supply. It means we have to ration what we are producing across 240, 50 million people. That's one. But another thing is also that if you are generating adequately, there's also the problem of transmission. Are we able to transport every bit of what we are generating to the distribution companies? That's also a problem, because there are times when the national grid is down for a day or two, and that's because if these lines are cut, we have to fix them before there is that onward transmission of electricity. It's not virtual, so it has to follow the cables. A lot of vandalism, sometimes terrorists, sometimes natural disasters, wind, rainfall, whatever you would call it, accidents, cars run into the transmission line sometimes. So that also hinders. But it's also the problem of, and that's why it gets a bit political, distribution companies not being able to recoup the monies they sell electricity for. And for business, if I would give you electricity and you don't pay me, I would refuse to give you. And I'll focus on the customer that pays for electricity. And sometimes they reject the load, and that has been a complaint from the generating companies that, look, we are generating as much as needed, but why are you telling us that it's not needed? Because the distribution companies are also saying that we're not able to account for all of the electricity we're collecting, so let's just control how much we receive. So you would see across the value chain, a problem can occur, and it would affect the supply of electricity from one point to the other.
According to the African Development Bank, the Nigerian government has spent 1.7 trillion naira on power sector interventions as of 2021. In March 2022, the CBN governor announced that the bank had disbursed over 1.3 trillion naira to support the power sector. The sale of PHCN assets, Gencos and Discos in 2013 generated approximately 350 billion naira at the time. Despite reforms in Nigeria's power sector, electricity consumption in the Federal Capital Territory remains low, with monthly energy cap allocations in parts of Jabi averaging about 120 to 140 kilowatts per household feeder. Across the country, official and third-party data shows Nigerians consume far less power than global peers.
Muna da matsalar wuta sosai kuma yawanci duk waɗanda suke kawo cajin su ma mutane wanda suna da matsalar wuta da mutane waɗanda suke yankin nan kuma kamar yadda muke zaune duk haka suke zaune. To muna amfani da janareto ne saboda ba mu samu wutar ba. Akalla yanzu kowane rana muna zuba mai a janareto, muna kunna inji da safe karfe 8 zuwa karfe 10 haka ko da rabi muna zuba mai kamar na 10,000 wani lokacin muna zuba na 11,000 in yanayin ya sauya ma har 12,000 sannan muna yin juye haka duk sati kowane rana za mu sa bakin mai kowane sati kenan shi ma akalla yana kaiwa naira 5,000 to muna yin caji kuma naira 150 da lokacin idan ka tattara kai cajin bayan ka tashi ka yi kasuwa idan ka cire kuɗin mai to abinda za ka lissafa ka samu in ya kai kuɗin rabin kuɗin man to an yi ƙoƙari kenan to gaskiya idan aka samu ta za mu sami sassauci sosai. Akwai nepa office me muka yi magana suka ce don siya mita a time suka ce don siya ko menene tiri akwai dai abin da suka ce don siya naira 150 to a lokacin sai na amince sai suka ce za su ɗauki wuta daga wannan estate din daga kan wannan fall din da kike gani ma ga magana suka ce zan sayi waya 110 sai kuɗin lebo zan ba da 50,000 komai da komai dai kusan 360 to amma ni duk da haka wutar da za su bani a wannan lokacin da na yi ta bibiya da sun ban tafi injin da nake kunna sauki tunda idan kai lissafi kowane rana ana sa mai a bashi 10,000 kin ga famon 300 wanda idan wutan ne aka sa to watakila abinda za a dinga charges a mita ba zai kai adadin kuɗin da muke kashewa a janareto ba sannan kuma za a samu kayan mutane suna cika kan lokaci to mun je mun ta bibiya sai su ce za su zo mun je mun ta zirga-zirga dai da dai sauransu amma mun dan kakkashe dai wasu kuɗi to karshe ma dai abin sai a kura maka ko tabbata samu ba kuma akalla yau maganar da nake miki da yin maganar nan da su kimanin yau wata 4 kenan.
However, even for residents of the estate across from Umar's shop, electricity costs are quite high.
I believe this new tariff system is expensive, and looking at the income level of most Nigerians, it's not affordable. Well, before the change in the tariff for this band A tariff and band B, band C, before the recent increase in the tariff, it's pretty affordable to pay for energy. But now, because some locations or some users across the country are put on a band system, which they call the cost reflective tariff. So the energy cost has skyrocketed, and I think the energy supply does not justify this high tariff. It's more affordable now to use renewable energy, especially solar power that you mentioned, to have energy, because users can just focus on lighting, on refrigerating, maybe fan for cooling, and maybe entertainment to watch television or charge their phones.
With the new tariff system, a unit of energy costs about 225 naira. Households on band A, the highest rating, may spend up to 200,000 naira on electricity monthly. With Nigeria's minimum wage set at 70,000 naira per month, not many can afford the new tariffs.
Some of the reasons I think that cause Nigerians not to have stable or 24 hours electricity include the huge or massive debt in the sector, in the energy sector. So when the government privatized or unbundled the power sector into distribution companies, transmission companies, and generating companies, some of the distribution companies bought these assets with some debt, and they could not upgrade the system. They cannot take up the energy that is generated by the generating companies. So because of the old decaying system that they inherited from the former NEPA, they bought with assets with some debt. So for them, they couldn't even source for more financing to upgrade the system, and they could not meter all their users. So because of such losses in this sector, I think the lack of funds is the reason. And if these distribution companies can have funding and they can upgrade their networks, they can meter all their users, the losses, energy losses or collection losses will reduce, and the number of hours the Nigerian energy users receive will increase. Dramatically or drastically, we can reach a time when maybe Nigerians can have 24 hours electricity supply.
Despite being Africa's largest economy and one of the world's biggest oil producers, Nigeria's grid delivers a fraction of the power citizens and industries need. Nigeria needs an estimated 1,500 kilowatts of energy per person per year.
Before now, If you vend 10,000 naira, you'll be having about 130 something units, if I'm not mistaken. But now 10,000 will just give you only 44 units. And I've listened to many people complain within the estate that it's not only that the tariff have increased, the new meter they've installed now is running too fast. So people that have spent 50,000 naira in a month before, now you should be ready to spend 200,000 naira, and the income have not increased actually. The food items, everything is on the high side, and the income have not increased. So definitely people are not happy. And some areas, you see, pay that good amount of money, because if you're in band A, you are supposed to experience enjoying life from 21 hours to 24 hours, but people are not getting it. They are getting the charges, but they are not getting the service. And definitely people are complaining, if you listen to even myself. So that's why people gradually are migrating from using AEDC, the public light supply, and going back to solar. Because even the generator is not even more efficient again, because the cost of fuel, the noise, the disturbance, and other things. So people prefer, no matter what they want to spend, no, getting solar, the initial cost is high, but you have a cool and quiet enjoyment of your electricity without noise. So, but people are happy. People are very, very unhappy because you are spending more and your income have not increased.
Nigeria's chronic power shortages are not merely technical failures. They are a symptom of a deeper governance, investment, and policy problem. In a nation rich in oil, gas, and renewable potential, the inability to light homes and run factories every day represents a profound mismatch between resource wealth and lived experience.
Akwai bambanci tsakanin wuta da janareto, saboda janareto shi yana shan mai yadda za a aiki da wuta, saboda a wuni muna shan man 15,000 10,000, amma kuma in wuta ne gaskiya ba zai sha abin da ya kai haka nan ba. Gaskiya ina kira gwamnati da su taimaka su sa hannu kan wannan lamarin, saboda rashin wuta babban al'amari ne ga dai mu sana'ar da muke yi gaskiya, saboda za mu yi samun sauki.
For the larger population without electricity, they depend on generators. Blackouts sometimes last up to 4 and 15 hours daily. Industries that depend on steady power face higher production costs, families budget for fuel and maintenance of generators, students lose study time, and clinics struggle to refrigerate vaccines. Nigeria's economy absorbs the shock of unreliable electricity in many ways. Households spend billions of naira annually on off-grid solutions, including generators and solar. Recognizing the urgency, the federal government approved a $2.61 billion electricity sector debt refinancing plan in 2025 to address accumulated debts owed to power generation companies. Yet, Nigerians bear the cost burden from reforms, including tariff adjustments and subsidy reductions, aimed at making the sector more financially viable. Until constant electricity is delivered nationwide, the infamous NEPA blackout will remain Nigeria's longest-running news story.